my channel. My name is Lynn. If you're new here, welcome. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than anything else I've ever done. This is a requested video, and I know the majority of you will probably not find this very interesting, probably, but I decided I'm going to listen to those who are asking and try and do my best. There was quite a few requests to see how I sew my dresses. I'm not exactly sure how to go about it because obviously I have to just cut it out. I have a pattern and I'll do my best. I'll kind of explain things as I'm going. Now, I know some of you had asked about patterns specifically, but I'm not sure how I would do that like on the video. So I guess if you really think you want the pattern or something, I could send it to you or something like that. But I'll try to explain things as I go. If you are new and you are not familiar, I am Mennonite and I do sew my own dresses. I've been sewing my own dresses since I was like, I don't know, pre-teens or teens, early teens. So yeah, I'm not an expert or a pro, but I do sew my own clothes, or like just, yeah, the cape dresses and stuff. So I figured I would just show you how I do that. I hope that helps you guys out. The fabric I'm using today is this stuff right here. Now, I don't know if it's going to show up very well on camera. It's a little discolored, you can't really see it, but it has a little bit of sparkles in it, and it's a knit, so it's nice and stretchy, and it's my favorite kind of fabric right now because it's so comfortable. So that is what I'm using. I'm excited because it just feels like a fall color, and I need some more fall colors right now. So that being said, I'll do my best, and I hope you all find it interesting. Okay, so this fabric specifically is, I think, around 60 inches wide, which is a fairly standard width. I fold it in half, and then I'm able to get my front and my back skirt cut out in one width, if that makes sense. Like I can get both of them side by side. So that's what I'm doing here. That's my front skirt, and then I'll do the same with the back skirt. I'll actually lay it on the selvage. If you guys know what a selvage is, it's already split, so that helps. I just kind of like flipped it around, and I'm able to not waste very much fabric that way. So then it's ready to go. I'll just have to sew the two seams together. This is my cape. It's actually just half of it, but I'll lay it on a fold and trace around it and cut it out that way. And that's kind of how I do all of my top bodice pieces, except for the back. I'll usually try and lay it on an edge that's already split, or I'll just have to split it myself. But that is how it looks, the bodice and the cape put together. Basically it's the same pattern, but the cape just doesn't have a armhole for it. So this specifically is my back cape, and I had to lay it on a fold, and then I'll just split it myself by cutting down the center. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to show you guys what I am doing. This is the front cape, and then I will also get the back capes, and I'll sew them together at the shoulder seams first, just the cape pieces, and then there's also a bodice piece. Let me get that one. Then this is what the bodice looks like. It's got sleeves, obviously, like it's cut out for sleeves, so I will sew the front and the back pieces together as well. And then once I have those separately sewed together, I will sew them together at the neckline, which is how the finished product looks. And I apologize for the noise, but you know, I gotta get it done. This is the cape all sewn together, and this is the bodice part sewn together. What I'm going to do now, in order to sew the two together, the cape part goes in the bottom, seams facing down, and then the bodice part goes right on top of this, seams facing down as well. And then line up your seams like so at each side. Make sure they match up. They should if your pattern is right. And then you're going to sew around the neckline right there. Okay, so I did use my serger for parts of the dress. Normally I can do most of the dress, but today my serger was not cooperating very well. But if I serger on the neckline with just the serger, it works perfectly. Like, I don't have to do any snipping. Normally, if you sew a round area, you will need to snip down to the line where you sewed, but it lays very nicely this way, and this is what it looks like once it's finished. That's the inside part of it. Here I'll go ahead and use my seam on the bottom part, like on my bodice, and I'll sew that together. I really don't know if that makes any sense, but basically I sew on the seam that I just sewed around on my neckline, and it just helps it lay nicer. You can see there, that's just on the inside. You don't see it, but it helps it lay nice and flat. After I'm done with the sewing part, I'll make sure that all my seams are nicely ironed together. I just like to make sure everything is laying flat and that it would look nice. And then the back, I need to sew down the middle of it. And I forgot to mention that if I don't use knit fabric, I usually have to put a zipper in. But with knit, normally it's stretchy enough that you don't actually have to bother, so it saves you time and money and hassle. So it's a win-win all around. So basically, yeah, it's just you can serge your two separately if you want and then sew it together, or you can just sew all of them together like I'm doing here. It kind of depends how the fabric is and how perfect you want it to look. Okay, so now I just sewed around here, did not backstitch it, and I'm going to pull the bottom thread and just gather it a little bit. It won't appear like it's gathered, but it helps it fit nicely around your sleeve or whatever. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to spread it kind of up throughout the top of it. Okay, so now I have my sleeves in, and I've been having problems with my serger today. I've been having to rethread it, and it's still kind of acting wonky, so that has really kind of thrown me back a little bit, but anyway, I think it'll work. Might just be the fabric. So basically, I keep my sleeves really simple usually. I'm probably just gonna do like a rolled hem, or like just fold it up and sew it. I'm not really picky. And then what I do for the cape is basically I just kind of eyeball it as to where I want it to end. So that's up to each individual. You want to make sure the other side is exactly the same width, and then I just pin it to my bodice nicely. And then this, I'll do it to this way, fold it in half, and then find that. Alright. Okay, so now we're ready for the skirt. Okay, so my skirt in the front is slightly curved at the top, just to kind of help it to stand a little nicer. And I'm going to find the center of this again. That way I can line it up with the ones on my top. I'm just going to sew in some simple darts just to give it a little bit more room on the sides. So usually I'll just line it up with the cape. Not extremely deep. Let me see here. I don't know, 1/2 inch or so, or 3/4 inch, I'm not sure. Okay, so I've got both darts in, and they should be the same, at least mostly. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have actual patterns or like markings, but I don't. He's supposed to be sleeping, but he's not. So progress is being made. The front skirt is on. And here I'm just sewing the back skirt on. Just make sure all of your seams are laying the way they're supposed to be and all flat. Alright, so the back is sewed on. Now it's time for the sides. I'll flip it inside out. Alright, so I match up the main center waistline, the two seams, make sure they're exactly matched up, and make sure all the seams are facing up. And what I like to do is just start a little bit below the waist and sew up towards the end of the sleeve. So in other words, go from bottom to top. That way, if I start way at the bottom, I might have not a very good chance of like lining up the seams. So I'm going to start just a little bit below here, and then that way I'll be safe in the seams, the matching of the seams. And I've got a little bit of extra on the sides, but that's fine. I'll just cut it off then. I'd rather have extra than not enough. And sometimes my darts are deeper, or I do something else with the waist, so that's why I have some extra going on. Normally I would just serge all of the seams separately and then sew it together because I like how it looks, but with this, like I said before, this knit is not doing very well with the serger for some reason, and so I'm just gonna sew it. So I do that to both sides, and then if the waist is not tight enough, I can just go here and sew it a little deeper. So now I'm starting at the bottom of the skirt and I'm gonna sew up. That way it kind of keeps it from pulling along the sides. I'm gonna try and explain how I do my cape. If I hem it, normally I'll just do it by hand. Just get a string and knot it at the end, like all the way through 2 layers or whatever. And then I'm gonna start at the bottom and go up. That way it doesn't curl. For some reason, that's just how it works. And now I'm gonna try and show you how I do it to keep the thread from just, like if you pull on it, to just like pull the whole thing. The way I do it, it's like a blind stitch. You won't really see the stitches, but here, let me show you. So this is the bottom of the cape, and I'm gonna sew up. I'm gonna start with my needle pointed this way. I'm gonna point it towards the bottom. Just a little stitch, pull it all the way through to the knot. Then I'll come up again and point it down again. Instead of pointing the needle up, point it down. That way your thread won't just like pull. See what I mean? I'm pulling on the thread, but it's not actually pulling the fabric. So there's like a little, by pointing the needle down, it'll keep it from pulling. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if it does or not, but I don't know. I guess you could say the needle is backwards maybe, instead of facing up towards the top. Okay, so that's what it looks like from the outside. You can't really see the stitches, for sure not in this fabric. And that's how it should look. Then you make sure to iron out all of your seams, all of like the edges. You can press the darts too. Okay, I'm done. Not without some little problems here and there, but that's usually how it goes. Yeah, I just had some issues with my serger, and I had to pick a couple stuff open, which I didn't necessarily show. But let me just give you a look at how it turned out. Okay, I'm going to show you guys a couple other dresses that I kind of made a little differently. This one is actually for my sister. I sewed it for her just this week or last week, and I kind of want to wear it for a certain occasion, so I figured I'd make it for her. But I like to add some gathers to the cape just to kind of give it a little extra body, so it doesn't pull as much, for sure if you have like really hangy fabric. But there's one idea. Here's a dressier black dress that I have. I just added a ribbon to the waist for a little bit more, I guess, a dressy look to it and stuff, and then added a little bit of ribbon to the sleeves. But other than that, I didn't really do anything. But yeah, I'm a pretty simple girl. And I thought I'd show you guys my wedding dress, since we're kind of looking at dresses anyway. My mom made most of this one. I kind of worked with the belt a little bit. Obviously it's been hanging now for like 6 years almost, and so it's looking a little floppy, but it was supposed to be one of those scrunchy belts type of thing. Took a little bit of doing, but anyway, yeah, it's a really simple dress. It has a very wide skirt, a pretty wide skirt. I was able to wear like a petticoat underneath, kind of help it stand nicer. And my favorite part about it, the belt and then the back. I love the buttons. They kind of look a little bit gray right here, but they are just the regular white cover buttons, and my mom painstakingly had to put these little rubber bands in. Bless her heart, I really wanted them, and she did them for me then. And so yeah, if I have questions about things, usually Mom is the one I go to. She figures anything out pretty much. And I really like how the belt looked here in the back, because I kind of had something to hold it in the center, which helped a lot. But yeah, there's an idea for you if you need some ideas, I guess. But yeah, I never wore it since my wedding, which is kind of sad, but I guess that's probably kind of typical for most wedding dresses. I don't know, I just keep things simple, and yeah, I like it that way. Plus, I'm wearing tops a lot of the time anyway. For sure, with this winter coming on, I'll be wearing like sweaters and stuff. So, yeah, I do have some really thin like shoulder pads in here. I'll switch them out between my dresses sometimes, just if I need a little bit extra like body or something up here. I'll just put them in there. You can't really see it, you know, but it just kind of helps it stand nicer. So, yeah, that's basically it. This is by no means a full tutorial, and I am not an expert at it. This is just the way I sew my dresses. I'm sure there's plenty of other opinions and other tips that would be really helpful, and you know, I could improve in and stuff. So everyone kind of sews differently and learns differently, but this is the way I do it. And I don't know, I hope I answered you guys' questions for those of you who were wanting to see how I sew. I really wasn't sure how to go about it, but I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope it wasn't too boring, and I hope you found it helpful. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.